Welcome back to New Day, everyone. The president, the vice president, Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, all responding to the broken Obamacare website yesterday, leading to still more questions as to who's responsible for the debacle and whether the administration has restored confidence that it can work. Joining us to talk about that and much more, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, a key member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, of course, joining me. Just gave you a demotion, Senator. I'm very sorry.
I enjoyed the House.
Exactly. You did. All right. Great to see you. I want to ask you about health care. No surprise, you are not a supporter of Obamacare. You're not a fan of the program or the law. But as it is rolling out, are you satisfied with the answers that Kathleen Sebelius provided to Congress yesterday?
Well, at the end of the day, time will tell. No, not really. I mean, how could, for 3 years, you have noticed that you got to roll out a website on a certain day and it not work? Are we going to pay people who designed the website it doesn't work? Can we get some of our money back? And everybody's responsible, but nobody's to blame, I guess, is sort of what I learned.
Do you allow them more time to get it right, or do you think that you can call it an abject failure now?
Well, it's a fiasco. I don't know if they can turn it around, but the website is just one story. The real story is how many millions of Americans are going to eventually get a letter from their insurance company saying, you're no longer covered, we're going to cover you under a new policy, and when you get the sticker shock, a lot of Americans are going to 29 hours of employment to avoid the employer mandate that kicks in at 30 hours. A lot of Americans are going to lose their private sector insurance that they've enjoyed. The president promised if you liked your health care, you could keep it. He said it'd be as cheap as a cell phone, and the easiest to access is Amazon.com, so he's 0 for 3.
Now, I want to ask you about Benghazi, because you've been very out there, very passionate about this. You're threatening to hold up presidential nominations until the White House lets you and lets other members of Congress speak to or hear from witnesses and survivors of that attack in Benghazi. You told Wolf Blitzer earlier this week that you would even hold up the nomination of Janet Yellen to lead the Federal Reserve in order to get these answers. Have you heard back from the administration about this threat?
Well, since March, I've been asking for something pretty simple. Before you can close the books on Benghazi, I think Congress needs to look over the administration's shoulder. It's called oversight. During the Bush years, when they made mistakes, and they made plenty of them, the 9/11 Commission, Abu Ghraib, Guantanamo Bay, detainee abuse, we had numerous hearings where Senator McCain and myself were working with Democrats to hold the Bush administration accountable. You've got a national security failure. You got the first ambassador killed in 33 years in the line of duty in Benghazi, and almost 14 months after the fact, the Congress has only been allowed to talk to one person who survived the attack. They won't make the witnesses available for congressional oversight purposes, and within 48 hours of the attack, the FBI interviewed the survivors in Germany, and it is my belief that the survivors never told the FBI there was a protest, but Jay Carney, the president, and Susan Rice, for weeks after the attack, claimed that there was no evidence of an al-Qaeda connection. It was not pre-planned. It was a protest spawned by a hateful video that went bad. My belief is that these FBI interviews 2 days after should be released to the Congress so we can look and see if whether or not there was evidence.
But Senator,
that there was never a protest.
Is there another way to do this? Because you know what folks are going to say is that Janet Yellen, leading the Federal Reserve, arguably one of the most important positions that will be leading in Washington in the coming years, in years ahead. Is it fair to hold up one part of government in order to make a point on another?
Is it fair to tell the Congress, when you have a national security failure like this, we will not make available to you the people who survived the attack so you can make an independent inquiry? Is it fair to withhold from the Congress, a separate branch of the government with oversight responsibilities, the basic evidence about what happened? I don't like holding up people. That's not my nature. I've run out of ideas, and I am not going to do, Kate, I'm not going to let this whole chapter close without having talked to the people in Benghazi who went through this living hell, and to push the administration to reconcile how their story about Benghazi was so different than the 60 Minutes report that identified al-Qaeda terrorists and named them by name, that it was a pre-planned coordinated attack. This is a big deal. We haven't gotten the truth, and the only leverage I have is to insist upon this information being released by stopping nominations. I'm not asking for too much. Is it really too much for me to want to talk to the people who were in Benghazi independent of the administration? Or should, in the future, the Congress just be told to shut up and go away? Trust us, we've looked at it.
Now, I want you to respond to the White House. The White House has said that this isn't about Benghazi at all. They say it's about politics for you. You're up for re-election this year. What do you say to Jay Carney, who is one of the people who said that?
Go tell the parents and the survivors of the 4 dead Americans that it's okay for the administration never to share the witnesses with the Congress so we can validate whether or not what the families were told about Benghazi is true. 14 months later, do we know how this protest story started when all the evidence from day one suggested a terrorist attacks? Chris, our Ambassador Stevens, on the phone said, we're under attack. I am confident that the witnesses who were interviewed 2 days after the attack never suggested there was a protest outside the consulate. And to Jay Carney, why did you say on 4 to 5 separate occasions, weeks after this attack, there was no evidence of a pre-planned terrorist attack? Did you know about the FBI interviews? Where did you get your information to suggest there was a protest? How could you tell the American people a story that had no basis in fact? And who denied the numerous security requests to enhance security at the consulate? The 60 Minutes piece detailed the people on the ground saw this attack coming. Has anybody been fired for letting the consulate become a death trap?
Senator,
what was Chris Stevens doing in Benghazi? Other than that, everything has been answered.
Senator, what are the chances you think you're going to get this information? You're going to get access to witnesses? Because quite honestly, the White House says they've gone above and beyond to give you guys information while a criminal investigation is going on. What are the chances you're going to get it?
Very good. That's a bunch of garbage. They haven't provided access to. How can you close the chapter on Benghazi when you've never talked to the witnesses? The Accountability Review Board, an internal State Department organization, had access to the witnesses. We're supposed to believe them and can't, interview the witnesses ourselves. I'm asking every Republican and Democrats to join together and tell this administration, you can't get away with this. This is a bad precedent. What would the world look like, America look like, if you have a failure like this and they use the criminal process? 9/11, you couldn't investigate 9/11 under the theory that there may be a potential crime prosecuted later. That's a ridiculous concept. An al-Qaeda attack is not a crime. It's a national security event. This was a national security failure, and the truth is not coming out, and the only way it will come out is to have access to the witnesses. I'm asking every Republican to stand with me and Democrats to make this administration do the right thing. Can you imagine what Democrats would be doing if this were the Bush administration? No, you can't talk to any of the witnesses. Go away. We're not going to share with you FBI information in real time.
Well, hopefully you can settle this without holding up nominations, because I know you will agree with this.
I would like that.
That obstructing one part of government is not a good way to run the other part of government. I know you agree with that. So hopefully you can work it out. Come back and tell us when you work it out.
I do believe in oversight, too, that one part of the government has to answer to the other.
Senator, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. All right, we'll talk to you soon.